What's up, everybody? I hope it just finds everybody well. Welcome back to the Built for Pressure podcast with me, Will Foden. And today we're going to do something a little bit different, something that's a little bit more personal to me, and actually we're going to give you guys some insights into what taught me how to be the leader that I am through the best mentor that I've ever known. And if you haven't have guessed, I'm going to be talking actually about my father. Now, today is a very, very special day because it is my son's first birthday. And those that are parents, you'll know how fast time flies and actually how mental birth, having kids and being a parent is. But also today is an extremely hard and positive day in some respect too. Of today's actually 3 years since I lost my father. So yeah, if you haven't have guessed, yes, my son was born on the same day. So anyway, this podcast, what I'm doing here is I'm going to give you guys some under the hood understanding of what actually built for Pressure, me, why I lead the way that I lead, why I believe in what I believe, and actually 5 key insights that I learned from my old man that hopefully will inspire others, not only just to take action, but to actually have some more conviction with their process, and more to the point, lead other people from a place of inspiration and creativity, rather than the doom and gloom that is social media and the current news lately. So what I'd like to elicit here is that I was from an extremely strong family unit. And as a leader and someone, my dad was not involved in any of the spaces that I've been in. My dad was a football player. He was also a creative director, and he was very of an advertising company. And he was also a man that actually, he would make friends with the wallpaper if he could. He was friends with absolutely everybody. So something that what I think other people will be feeling if you've ever lost a loved one, or you had a massive change in your life, you'll be going through a grief cycle. So what I'll do is I'll elicit what that means. Obviously, 3 years ago was horrendous, and what you'll actually start doing is you'll go through these first pieces of the puzzle. First things, what you'll do is you'll actually go through denial. You won't actually think, you can't believe that it's happening. And again, I lost my dad. He was diagnosed with lung cancer and passed away within 4 weeks. Which was due to smoking 30 years ago. I've actually got a gene expression that means that if I smoke, I'll get lung cancer. So just to be clear, I've never smoked and I never will do. But also, if people smoke in front of me, that's why I get weird about it. So when you go through something tragic, you'll go through denial, and then actually you'll go through anger, you'll go through aggression. The third stage is actually you're going to be going through bargaining. You try and bargain with it. If I'll do anything to turn back time and all that kind of stuff, and then you'll actually hit a piece of depression, and then lastly you'll go through acceptance. Those that have listened to this podcast before, you'll then suddenly realise and understand that that's actually very similar to the cycles of behaviour when it comes through to people actually accepting they've got to make behavioural change. Grief is grieving for an old cycle, and when you're grieving for a person, a thing, or something that's actually meant a lot to you and you now lost it, what it actually is you looking to find balance again. Because my dad to me was my best friend. My dad to me was I'm very, very close with my mum as well. We have a very strong, trustworthy family unit, which again I'll go through in a minute. My family made me feel safe. And when I lost my dad, obviously I've got my mum, and she'll protect me at all costs. She'll know she'll do that, and she's like a terrier when she wants to be. But as a man, realizing that I had to take that talisman of being the man of the house, that was a huge piece of that grieving cycle for me, was because I didn't know if I was ready. And actually, you're always born ready, and you're always ready to do what you need to do. The key thing that you need to distinguish here is: are you actually putting yourself in a position to do so? So I'm just going to give you 5 key insights. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to read my like really talking about my dad and spending 45 minutes talking about one point. I'm going to give you 5 things that I learned from him, that I want you guys to take, you to be inspired by, and run this through your current process, whether you're running a business, leading other people, wanting to perform at your best, or you're finding it so difficult to get rid of this feeling of all you want to do is achieve and you don't know how. Put these frames in, write them down in a journal, and figure out what you feel. So number one, first things first, is actually my dad came up with this. Had a saying for me when I was a child, which I've learned. I didn't really take much stock of it until my dad passed away, which is be different, be daring, be decisive. Now, where this stems from is my dad is from the mighty All Sage of Stoke-on-Trent. He was part of a normal family, a mining family. And the expectation of where he's from was very much a case of get a normal job, fit into society, and do what the normal things are. My dad had a different idea. He completed a 3-year degree in 2 years. He moved to London on 50 quid. He then moved up. We've been told multiple times that he couldn't be an advertiser, to which then working for Jaguar Land Rover and getting all sorts of other awards. If you guys in advertising will know, a DNA award is like an Oscar. My dad had 2 of them. My point being, my dad has always wanted to be rebellious and always wanted to not just fall into status quo. And something that I've learned as someone who leads and wants to push my business to its limits and push my personal and professional performance to the next level is actually what I should never ever try and conform. I think we have this weird association that you it's actually a bad thing if you're a black sheep. If you're somebody who is not standing out, or if you're somebody who is standing out like a sore thumb, it's a problem. Well, actually, that's your superpower. I had a conversation last week around somebody who is finding it extremely alienating that they had some high audacious goals, but a lot of people didn't quite understand why they had them. And for me, that is the difference. That makes the difference. Ever since I was a kid, my parents backed me to do whatever I wanted to do. Like I said, my dad was a footballer, played tennis, very creative, artistic, wrote books, etc. My mum, librarian, she doesn't play rugby at all, she didn't play tennis either. But for me, that was one thing that I had, was didn't matter what I was doing, they'd back me to do it. So actually being rebellious in that process and being comfortable standing alone and standing up for what you believe in, I learned that from my family and from my father. And now it's the reason why Built for Pressure is not built for everyone. It's built for the 1% of people that want everything. They want to live life at 100 miles an hour, create more impact, have more freedom, have more revenue without losing themselves and their performance in the process. That's not a strap line that's built for everybody. That's a strap line built for somebody that wants to keep winning at everything. Because number 2 is be daring. Now, my dad was unwilling to sink to average. He was unwilling to not stand up for himself. I remember the amount of times my dad got made redundant was mad. Like he in that corporate environment in the 90s, etc. It was difficult for them. You'd be on a job and then something would happen and you'd get blindsided and that would be it. The amount of times my dad got put up against the wall, had his job ripped away from him, and he obviously had a young family looking after my mum and looking after us and getting back on the wagon. That was all part of daring to believe in himself. And I found that what he taught me, again, it didn't really sink in until I was older, was actually backing myself, knowing that I can do it. Doesn't matter if I can't see the end outcome. It's knowing what I believe in, daring to be great, daring to do something special, daring to hang my hat on something that I massively know can help people do it just like me. It gave me huge amounts of courage. And daring to do something great rather than do something average was in my dad's process. And what most people I find will do is they are so scared to make the wrong decision. But the wrong decision is indecision. Because the number 3 is actually being decisive. My dad used the old Adidas saying, "Impossible is nothing." And what I learned is, again, it was funny. I actually. You can see, if anybody follows my sister Ellie Foden or the Maverick Mind on Instagram, she is very similar to me but exact opposite to me. Extremely creative, yoga teacher, pescatarian, vegetarian, softly spoken, but the lady has extreme amounts of venom. But what my dad gave was that impossible is nothing mentality to both of us, and to my mum too. And to be honest, my dad was a dad to a lot of other different people, not physically or metaphorically. I mean, he didn't have 37 families, but it was strange. Again, I hope people, but you should. This is something that you'll learn, and again, it's being extremely morbid. Everybody's going to go through some form of tragedy in their family, and I just going to a funeral that is of a family member so close to you. The energy is mental. The energy, I've never had anything like that before. But afterwards, my dad had over 500 people turn up to his funeral. The difference is I suddenly realised what my dad did for people, and that was give people the next piece of power, which was the capability of backing themselves and giving themselves self-belief. I always knew this was in part of my coaching process. I never understood where it came from, but actually where it came from was my dad had the growth mentality, the Carol Dweck stuff in relation to the glass was always half full. He found joy in everything, and what I find is he was so determined to make sure that he brought him and his team with him. The impact he had on people was mad, and what I learned from that was actually deciding what you want to do and attacking that. And having the courage to stand and be alone at some points. If anybody is listening to this who's entrepreneurial, who is leading a massive corporation, who has just landed a new job, or they're doing something that's extremely alienating, the quickest thing that you can do for you to elevate your confidence, your performance, and actually help you get in front of the feelings of inaction is actually just being decisive. Rightly or wrongly, it doesn't matter, but you'd rather navigate on the move. And again, I've learned all this sort of like high performance terminology over years of reading and years of being in the high performance space. But actually, I had that ever since I was a kid. My dad's, what do you want to do? Want to play professional rugby? Good. Or, Dad, I don't want to play tennis. I goes and listened to my story. I got on the road to Wimbledon playing tennis, and I went down. I thought he was going to be disappointed in me because my dad played tennis, and it was the exact opposite. He backed me. Be decisive in your actions and commit to them. That's massively important. Number 4, again, this is those that will know me is one thing I'll hang my hat on, is that my work ethic and my ability to work hard and stay humble is something that's been ingrained in me since I was young. I watched both my parents hustle where they needed to. I watched both my parents dig in when times are hard. I watched both my parents look after other people even when they're under duress. And my dad in the final weeks of him being here was still worried about other people. And even when he was looking down the barrel, very much so, he made sure that other people were safe and that other people were still able to push. And what I've learned through times of tragedy and times of huge success is I'm not bigger than anybody else. I'm not better than anybody else. I'm not a genetic freak. I'm not one of these people that boasts on the internet telling everybody that I'm amazing. What I do know, though, is that when it comes down to it, I will outwork everybody. I'm willing to suffer, and I've got staying power because I've learned this from my dad, is the ability for you to outlast people counts way more than single feats of high performance. Doesn't matter what it is. I remember my dad had a story of, we went for a job when I was young, and the man that interviewed him told him to fuck off back up north. He's from London. The guy who's interviewed him, fuck off back up north, go back to Stoke and just do something what Stokies do. And then years later, my dad had a man knock on the door who was coming for a job interview, and it was the bloke that had interviewed him before. And obviously my dad very royally told him to fuck off. But my point is, my dad had staying power. And I never, again, like I said, it's weird when you look back on this kind of thing, but the reason why I am the way that I am is because I've got as I said, my mum is very similar. She can absolutely dig her heels in and push through huge amounts of pressure. But my dad was very, very similar, is that there was nothing, there was always work to be done. And in my dad's era, and what my dad massively taught me was around creativity over process. In that working hard and staying humble piece, being true to yourself. And as I said, my dad is extremely creative. I'm not, from a drawing standpoint, I'm not that guy, but from what I'm trying to achieve, I am, is actually why conform to the status quo. Still work hard and staying humble is still part of the game, but actually working hard and staying humble in your process of being creative, not the process of what society expects. That was what my old man taught me, and something that we built for pressure is that it runs through every vein inside my company. Is that I'm not expecting other people to understand half of this. I'm not expecting, if you are a high performer, no one should understand you because you've got strange behaviours from society's standpoint. But have you got the capacity and the endurance to be able to keep enduring that, showing that, and keep showing up when others are demonising you? Again, that's been a huge part of my process since I was a kid. And lastly, probably the most powerful piece, just to sum up my son's birthday too, is family is everything. Since having a kid, dads out there, you'll totally get this. You have a son or a daughter, and suddenly your whole world changes. Nothing else matters. All the bullshit, the riffraff that came with life, all the uncertainty, all the I'm not sure what I'm doing, all that kind of thing, that all goes away as soon as you have a kid. Why? Because life is bigger than you. And actually exploring that and something that I had as a child and have had throughout my whole life is I don't know how to say it. The love for my family was unmatched. My family looked after me and my sister and all my friends and everyone else with the most amount of love ever. Because my dad, I remember my dad's 40th. My dad was getting a job in Manchester, and I went up for his 40th, and I went on the piss of all his mates. And his mates literally got me in the corner. We were getting mullered. He's like, "Do you know how fucking boring your dad is? All he ever does is talk about you." And then I got it. I understood why the why behind my dad's what my dad was trying to do, and the why he was doing it was for his family. The reason why that he was always making sure that we were well travelled, making sure that we were doing cool stuff, making sure that he was listening, being present. Let's not pretend. My old man grew up he was working when I was born in 89, the 19s and the 2000s. My dad worked in London. He was never there during the week. He wasn't this like, especially now, I've got the privilege of being in George's life whenever time of the day I want to. I work at home and he's downstairs or whatever. That's all part of the game. But then that didn't happen. So what my dad did is he made sure that I did not feel he wasn't missing out on what I was doing. He would come and make sure that he was part of it, even when he was super busy. And this is something that other leaders can take and other leaders can sort of lean their hat on, is when you talk about freedom and you talk about you actually owning your business and operating inside your business and with your business and looking to make the most amount of impact ever. The key thing to distinguish is actually freedom comes from actually, have you got the opportunity to do the things that you want to. I massively pride myself on knowing that I will, as I said, I'll outwork the room, but not to the detriment of my family. Because it's imperative. I don't believe in work-life balance. I think work-life balance is bullshit. I don't think you can have that. What it is for an old mentor of mine, Matt Connolly, shout out to you, mate. You use integration. Is my business integrated into my process? My process is integrated into my business. And what I've learned over years of operating in this space, as well as I said, the background that I've had, is knowing that that's the only way for you to actually win this game and actually feel like you're winning whilst being successful. I think most people, you're always going to have times where you have to push your family aside a little bit for you to make way for new things, and vice versa. How do you bring it back? I'm a firm believer that I'd rather have quality time with my family than loads of pointless waste man chit chat. But my point being is, I learned all this from my greatest mentor, and I think a lot of people give it lip service, and everybody's dad's their superhero. Yeah, let's not pretend. But those that have asked about me, why I'm the way that I am, why I do it the way that I do, why I coach the way that I coach, is after I lost my old man. Within a week, I suddenly realised that everything within my coaching process had been taught indirectly by being part of such an amazing family. And it's just I'm a very, very lucky. I'm not this dude who comes across here and says that, oh yeah, I'm from a ghetto and my parents were drug addicts and fucking, I don't know, so my dad's in prison and this kind of shit. I had the best family unit ever, and it's the reason why I fight tooth and nail to make sure that my family is the same. So anyway, I digress. A little bit of a personal episode and something that is very, very special to me. I massively appreciate those that have listened, and I hope you can take some form of inspiration and realise that actually you're not alone in this. There are people that are operating in a different sphere, and like I said, my dad was a 1% kind of guy. Worked in he fucking hated rugby compared to me, but he massively taught me the keys of what it's like to keep performing even when you're under pressure, and also how to lead other people and inspire. So anyway, I digress. A personal episode. I massively appreciate all of you that have listened. If you have anything that you'd like to share, or if it struck a nerve, or you need any help with anything, or you just enjoyed the episodes and have any feedback, I'd love to hear from you. Please DM me on Instagram at Will Foden, LinkedIn Will Foden, or leave a comment on YouTube. So anyway, I digress. Have an awesome day, people, and I'll catch you soon.